You won't believe this. I'm a princess who can't do anything, can't play music, can't write, can't even paint. And my dad? He just picked me a husband, a total genius. Stay tuned, because this is about to get wild. I'm a princess who's bad at the 4 traditional arts: music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. All of them. Mainly because my father came from a rough, grassroots background. Our family just doesn't have those genes. Sure, my mother is stunningly beautiful, but she also once wielded a meow saber and fought alongside my father to conquer the realm. Now that the realm has been won, my father still opens and closes his mouth with the same favorite curse. Damn it all. Why are you even thinking about building palaces when the state treasury is empty? I'm perfectly happy living in the Prime Minister's residence. What? Where does the Prime Minister live? He can live wherever he likes. Damn it all. Why pick consorts? Pick what consorts? I've already got sons and daughters. That's plenty. Worried my son isn't learned enough? No problem. If my son isn't good enough, swap him out with yours. Damn it all. Raise taxes? The people just survived years of war, and you want to raise taxes? Fine, the treasury's empty. Then I'll just confiscate a few officials' estates, and it'll be full again. Under my father's influence, on my 12th birthday, I blurted out that curse right to the Prime Minister's face. I scared the old man so badly, he fainted on the spot. Only then did my father realize how serious the problem was. From age 12 on, my days were scheduled like this: music practice in the morning, calligraphy at noon, painting in the afternoon, and chess at night. After 4 years of diligent effort, I proved just how powerful my father's genes were. I still couldn't learn a single one of them. Not a thing. So my father decided to take a different route and find me a husband who was proficient in all 4 arts so I could learn by immersion. At the mid-autumn banquet, my father invited every court official to our residence. I sat beside him, looking down at a crowd of vibrant, talented young men below the steps, and couldn't help nodding in satisfaction. My father nodded in satisfaction too, then asked the son of the regional inspector. Young Master Chen looks dashing at first glance. Quite the charmer. Is he already betrothed? The Inspector Chen panicked and dropped to his knees. Your Majesty, my son was engaged at 15. The wedding is set for the end of this year. My father sighed, then turned and asked, what about the son of Minister Li? He looks refined and well-mannered. Is he married? Minister Li trembled as he knelt in the middle of the hall. Your Majesty, my son was formally engaged last year. We're preparing for the wedding this year. My father took a sharp breath, lowered his voice, and continued. I hear Minister Wei's son is exceptional. What about him betrothed? Before my father even finished, Minister Wei was already on the ground. Your Majesty, my useless son was promised in a childhood betrothal. The wedding is also at the end of the year. My father's beard shook with anger. He snorted coldly. The end of the year is really lively, huh? All of you forming teams to get married. He waved his hand and pointed at a young man in the corner who was enthusiastically stuffing his face with date cakes. You there eating the date cakes. Are you betrothed? The young man stood up and shook his head. My father slammed the table. You'll do. My Yanyan is about your match. Let's have you marry at the end of the year too. More weddings, more fun for everyone. I was just about to ask my father if this was a bit too hasty when the Prime Minister rolled his eyes and fainted again. The inner attendant beside my father glanced over and whispered in his ear, this young man is named Fang Jianzhi. He's the Prime Minister's youngest son. My father waved his hand, had someone carry the Prime Minister away, and muttered under his breath, damn it all. You're always opposing me. Fine, I'll gift you a little nemesis. Early the next morning, after court was dismissed, my father had just lifted his bowl of porridge when the Prime Minister dragged Fang Jianzhi into the room, saying he'd brought the gung tai, the formal cards used to exchange birth charts for a betrothal. My father reached out and patted the Prime Minister's hand. Why bother exchanging birth charts? As long as the 2 kids get along, that's what matters. No need for all that feudal superstition. The Prime Minister's face tightened, looking as if he'd just been taken advantage of. He sighed. My son learned to read at 3, recited poetry at 4, spoke eloquently by 7. He studied bitterly for years and has only just entered the court. My father pondered the old man's words for a moment, then gave him a hearty slap on the back. I told you, we're not doing things the old way. Jianzhi is a good child, my father said firmly, looking at the Prime Minister. Any child who believes studying is for speaking up for the common people won't go wrong. What's so bad about being an imperial son-in-law? In our family, he can still enter court and hold office. My father winked at the Prime Minister. If my son turns out useless, I'll just hand things over to your son and my daughter. We pick people by ability after all. The Prime Minister cried rivers of tears and snot, repeatedly praising my father as a wise ruler. My father waved his hand, beaming. Wise ruler or not, what about abolishing the hereditary privilege system? The Prime Minister thumped his chest. Your Majesty, rest assured. I'll personally handle it. Woo-woo. Wise ruler. My father stood up and escorted the sobbing Prime Minister out, leaving Fang Jianzhi and me staring wide-eyed at each other. I nudged Fang Jianzhi with my elbow, signaling that his father was gone. Fang Jianzhi cleared his throat, tilted his head, and asked, "There's a lantern festival tomorrow. Would you like to go have a look?" So straightforward. My mother always said feelings grow through spending time together. I nodded. Then shall we meet at Spring Celebration Street at dawn tomorrow? After seeing Fang Jianzhi off, I planned to tell my parents that I'd be going out with him the next evening. Before I even reached the door, I heard my mother whispering to my father, "If our daughter marries into the Fang family, she'll be beaten 3 times a day." "No," my father said firmly. "Yan is the most sensible child. She's followed us through so much hardship since she was little and never once complained." He sighed. "That old Prime Minister may oppose me daily in court, but his family values are excellent. His eldest son wanted to go into business, and he never forced him to study the Confucian classics. As for Fang Jianzhi, I've been watching him for a year. He's reserved and steady, a perfect match for a Yan." My mother's voice choked with tears. "But I can't bear to part with Yan. Li Qing told me Yan never sleeps soundly at night. And that scar on her right hand, what if Fang Jianzhi minds it?" My father's voice rose immediately. "He'd better not dare. Our Yan is beautiful, kind-hearted, and tough. She's more than worthy of him. If he dares to look down on her, I'll wipe out his entire family." My mother sobbed softly. "Do you think we did wrong, making Yan suffer so much with us for nothing?" I stood up, brushed the dust from my hands, and had attendants in tell my parents that I'd be going out with Fang Jianzhi tomorrow. I also told him not to mention that I'd overheard their private talk. Attendants nodded with eyes full of pity, told me to take guards with me, and to come back early. I waved my hand, leaving Old Sin with a dashing view of my back. I thought about it all day, and only began getting ready in the evening. Once I was done, I dragged Li Qing into the carriage. Seeing no one around, I whispered to her, "From now on, don't report everything to my parents. If you dare tell my mother about me again, you can go serve her instead." "Her Highness is only worried about you," Li Qing replied softly, lowering her head. "She's afraid you'll marry badly and live unhappily. The father and mother already have enough to worry about. Why trouble them daily over me? Whoever I marry, I still have to live my own life. Whether I'm happy or not depends on me." When we reached Spring Celebration Street, I saw Fang Jianzhi standing at the entrance, dressed in blue robes with cloud patterns embroidered on the cuffs, a jade pendant of the same color hanging at his waist. I glanced down at myself, wondering if I dressed too plainly. Before I could ask Li Qing, Fang Jianzhi had already walked over and offered me his arm. I took his arm to step down from the carriage and looked up at him. "Why is the Lantern Festival so lively today?" Fang Jianzhi tugged gently at my sleeve and led me inside. His Majesty said the harvest was good this year, so he allocated funds for the festival to let everyone celebrate together. I let out an "oh" and stood on tiptoe, gazing at the endless street, strolling along with Fang Jianzhi. "Why do they call you Yanyan?" Fang Jianzhi asked softly, handing me a skewer of candied hawthorn. I shook my head and mimicked my father's tone. Salt is the lifeline of the state. And the crown prince is named Chen Yan? Inkstone, I said, nodding. Sounds cultured. My father's lifelong dream is wealth and culture. His Majesty's aspirations are truly simple, Fang Jianzhi chuckled. Now that the country is improving, His Majesty can finally rest a bit easier. After wandering for a long time, Li Qing was loaded down with purchases, and even Fang Jianzhi's hands were full of bundles. Fang Jianzhi glanced at the moonlight and said it was getting late. He would see me home first. I climbed into the carriage, Fang Jianzhi sitting beside me. He reminded me softly, "These green pears are sour. Eat them in moderation, and don't drink hot tea while you're eating them." I listened as I nibbled on the pastries, crumbs rustling softly, while Fang Jianzhi handed me tea from the side.
"Slow down," he said.
"Why are you eating in such a rush?" "I didn't eat dinner before I came out. I thought we were going to eat first, not go straight to strolling the streets." I swallowed a bite of pastry. "My mother says once it's SI hour, I'm not allowed to eat anymore, so I have to hurry and eat a bit now. Otherwise I'll be so hungry at night, I won't be able to sleep." Fang Jianzhi's expression darkened slightly. He poured me a cup of hot tea. "Why didn't you say you hadn't eaten?" "I was afraid you'd think it was troublesome." I waved my hand, stuffed the remaining half of the pastry into my mouth, and washed it down with tea. Besides, missing one meal isn't a big deal. Fang Jianzhi sighed and handed me another cup of tea. "Yen, I'm not afraid of trouble. From now on, anything you have on your mind, you can tell me." I felt a brief daze but didn't argue. I just smiled at him, thinking to myself that I'd listen and let it pass. Who in this world is truly not afraid of trouble? After we returned to the palace, the news of my engagement to Fang Jianzhi, the Prime Minister's youngest son, gradually spread. Everyone thought the old Prime Minister would be utterly crushed by it, but instead he became more energetic by the day, clinging tightly to my father and dedicating himself wholeheartedly to promoting merit-based appointments and abolishing the hereditary privilege system. People in court all said the Prime Minister had been scared half-mad by my father. When the Prime Minister heard this, he snorted coldly and cursed them as blind, ignorant fools. After court, Fang Jianzhi would make time every few days to take me out, and he often had people deliver little trinkets to me as well. I pinned a jade hairpin that Fang Jianzhi had given me into my hair. My mother nodded in satisfaction, saying Fang Jianzhi was even more considerate than my father and truly knew how to cherish someone. After chattering on for a while, my mother suddenly remembered. "Yanyan, you're meeting Fang Jianzhi today, right? Oh my, hurry along, hurry, don't be late. Go have fun." She pushed me all the way to the carriage, talking non-stop about how men and women should get along. I couldn't help marveling that it was no wonder she could handle my father so well. I pushed open the carriage window and waved at her repeatedly, signaling for her to rest assured. Fang Jianzhi changed out of his official robes and waited for me at the gate. When he saw my carriage, he lifted the curtain and climbed right in, proudly showing me the kite in his hand. I made it myself. I tugged at Fang Jianzhi's sleeve. "I haven't eaten lunch yet." "Then we'll eat first." Fang Jianzhi narrowed his eyes slightly. Huffing House is famous for its crispy pork knuckles, Rixin House for its steamed perch, and Wanbao Pavilion for its sweet and sour ribs. "Yen, what do you want to eat?" I rolled my eyes thoughtfully. Huffing House today, Rixin House tomorrow, and Wanbao Pavilion the day after. Fang Jianzhi smiled, his brows softening, and said quietly, "All right." When the owner of Huffing House saw Fang Jianzhi, he bowed and led us straight to a private room on the second floor. I toyed with the teacup on the table while watching Fang Jianzhi brew tea with smooth, flowing movements. Truly a pleasure to watch. But the soundproofing of the room was frankly terrible. Laughter kept drifting in from next door. I listened carefully and realized they were talking about me. A bumpkin is a bumpkin, can't learn music, chess, calligraphy, or painting, not a single one. What a waste of the tutors teaching her day and night. I bet instructor Li taught until his hair turned white. I saw Fang Jianzhi's face go cold as he stood up. I hurriedly grabbed him and whispered, "Don't mind them. Let them talk. I won't lose a piece of flesh over it. Besides, What they're saying is true anyway. Fang Jianzhi let me hold onto his sleeve and took a couple of steadying breaths. I saw his eyes redden slightly, so I grabbed his hand and shook my head with a smile. But the discussion next door didn't stop. And Fang Jianzhi too, so what if his father is the prime minister? He still has to marry a princess. Whether he can climb any higher in the future is anyone's guess. Poor prime minister, working diligently his whole life, only to have two sons. One goes into business, and the other's official career is basically ruined. And Fang Jianzhi treats that princess like a treasure, too. I took a deep breath, let go of Fang Jianzhi's hand, and kicked open the door to the neighboring room. Looking at the people inside, I sneered coldly. Today I'd really like to see what kind of outstanding talents you are, sneaking around gossiping behind others' backs. Oh, you're the son of Censor Wang, aren't you? Your father is 6 years older than the prime minister, and is still just a censor. Seems he hasn't worked all that hard either. And you, Inspector Chen's family, right? Your father's getting on in years, and it won't be easy for him to move up the ranks now. Oh. So your family is counting on you, then? You'd better hurry up and study hard. I'll remember all of you. I swept my gaze around the room. I'll have to ask my father when the palace examinations are. Since you only know how to eat, drink, and have fun, and the hereditary system has been abolished, I hope to see all of you there when the time comes. Leaving behind a group of people whose faces had gone deathly pale, I dragged Fang Jianzhi back into our private room and patted my chest.
Don't worry.
I've got your back from now on. Fang Jianzhi's lashes trembled slightly. He coughed softly and said in a low voice, "Your Highness has remarkable presence." I snorted. I've seen real blades and real blood. Scaring a few pampered young dandies is more than enough. After happily devouring a pork knuckle to my heart's content, I grabbed the kite and eagerly went with Fang Jianzhi to the south of the city. Fang Jianzhi followed closely behind as I ran ahead, muttering softly, "Slow down, slow down." I beamed as I looked at the kite soaring high in the sky. It's been so long since I ran this freely. The wind picked up and the reel spun out of control. I reacted quickly and reached to pull the string. My sleeve slipped down, and I hurried to tug it back up, but the reel spun all the way out. The kite, freed from its line, wobbled and drifted in the wind. Fang Jianzhi grabbed my arm. Seeing the long scar that nearly reached my shoulder, his face went ashen. What happened? When I was little, I was kidnapped to threaten my father. I was wounded by the bandits. I tilted my head. It's ugly, isn't it? Fang Jianzhi gently traced the scar on my arm. It's beautiful. Yanyan is beautiful everywhere. The warmth at my wrist felt like creeping vines, winding up my arm and straight into my heart. My face burned red. I pulled my hand back and replied stiffly, I'm obviously beautiful everywhere. I shot Fang Jianzhi a sideways glance. You don't mind the scar? Why would I? Fang Jianzhi took my hand. Yanyan is Yanyan. Even with less of her, she wouldn't be Yanyan. A patch of the setting sun fell across Fang Jianzhi's face, his brows and eyes full of gentleness. I murmured softly, Fang Jianzhi is Fang Jianzhi too. Even a bit less, he wouldn't be Fang Jianzhi. I watched his face draw closer and closed my eyes, only for my stomach to rumble at the worst possible moment. Fang Jianzhi laughed softly and took my hand. Come have dinner at my place. My mother has mentioned you several times already. Startled, I yanked my hand out of his palm and waved frantically, almost shaking my arms off. No, better not. I'm afraid your father has trauma from seeing me. What trauma would my father have? I made him faint twice. I looked at Fang Jianzhi earnestly. And honestly, I'm really scared of your father. Fang Jianzhi pinched my cheek. My father is all bark and no bite. You'll know once you've been to our house. In the end, I couldn't withstand Fang Jianzhi's gentle persistence. I had someone send word to my mother that I'd be having dinner at the Prime Minister's residence that evening. How should I put it? I looked at the servants lined up on both sides of the Fang family gate, Lady Fang standing there with a warm smile, and the Prime Minister wearing a dark expression, and I figured I was probably welcome. The moment I stepped out of the carriage, Lady Fang grabbed my hand and laughed brightly. Look at this face. She's carved from the same mold as Her Majesty. A celestial beauty, truly. I smiled like a silly little mascot. Oh my heart was melting. Fang Jianzhi's mother was so good at praising people. Lady Fang shoved the old prime minister aside and pulled me along. Come inside quickly. I heard you two were out playing all afternoon. Oh, dear, you must be hungry. Come, let's eat. Before we could even exchange a few polite words, Lady Fang had already pressed me down at the table. I waited until the old prime minister picked up his chopsticks before I dared to do the same. Lady Fang shot him a glance and cleared her throat twice. Your Highness, eat as you like. Don't mind Eiji's father. He's old, slow in his movements. I nodded with an awkward smile. Just as I swallowed the fish in my mouth, Fang Jianzhi's elder brother suddenly rolled his eyes, his face turning red and his neck thickening as he collapsed to the floor, his entire face flushed. Chaos erupted around us. I glanced at the imperial greens in his bowl, thought for a moment, waved the crowd back, loosened his collar slightly, and told Fang Jianzhi a few medicinal ingredients, urging him to hurry and prepare the medicine. After a flurry of activity, once the medicine was forced down, Fang Jianzhi's elder brother barely managed to open his eyes. A physician rushed over to take over, saying he'd eaten something he shouldn't have and that he was out of danger now. When I returned to the table, the dishes had already gone cold. After all that, I had no appetite left and was just about to rise and take my leave. The old prime minister stopped me, insisting that I finish the meal before leaving, and ordered a whole new table of dishes. Lady Fang pinched him sharply. TSK, what a waste. Just reheat this table. Does your Highness mind? Lady Fang glanced at me. I paused, confused, then shook my head. We barely touched the food just now. What's there to mind? Lady Fang looked at me even more kindly. Your Highness knows medicine? When I was young and followed my parents on military campaigns, I learned a little from the army physicians. I nodded. And please don't call me Your Highness. Just call me Yanyan. What a good child. How much hardship must you have endured? Lady Fang looked at me with deep sympathy. And don't call me Madam either. Just call me Mother. No, that's a bit early. Call me Aunt for now, and later you can change it to Mother. Before I could respond, Lady Fang slapped the old prime minister hard on the arm. Blind fool. What use are those women who only know how to write poetry all day? We almost missed out on such a wonderful daughter-in-law. I looked awkwardly at the clear handprint on the prime minister's face and silently expressed my sympathy. Lady Fang grabbed my hand and slid a pair of jade bangles from her own wrist onto mine, smiling so widely her eyes nearly disappeared. Good child. Calm in a crisis and knowledgeable in medicine, there aren't many like that. No wonder our Jianzhi can't stop thinking about you. At that point, I felt completely dazzled by Fang Jianzhi's mother. Like a big-headed good luck charm, I just sat there and ate enthusiastically. On the way home, rubbing my round belly, I thought about what Lady Fang had said and turned to ask Fang Jianzhi, your mother said you've been thinking about me constantly. Did we know each other before? Fang Jianzhi frowned. You truly don't remember me? I shook my head. 5 years ago, at the New Year's Eve banquet, my father brought my brother and me to attend. My brother ate something wrong, just like today. His whole body turned red, and he couldn't breathe. It was you who cleared the crowd and ordered medicine to be prepared. You saved my brother's life. I rubbed my nose, utterly puzzled. So, I saved your brother's life. Then why didn't he repay me by marrying me? Fang Jianzhi let out a long breath, then clenched his molars as if barely holding back. Wasn't he unconscious? I thought it over and felt something was off. So today, was it you who made your brother eat something he shouldn't have? Fang Jianzhi leaned against the carriage wall, eyes closed. Yan, what do you think? Think my foot. I smacked Fang Jianzhi on the head and scolded him in a low voice. Even if you wanted your father to accept me, to see that I'm not useless, you can't gamble with your brother's life. What if I hadn't been able to save him? I discussed it with my brother beforehand. Fang Jianzhi narrowed his eyes. And we already had the medicine and physicians prepared at home. I pointed at Fang Jianzhi with a trembling finger. This man was utterly outrageous. I stormed back to the palace, but when I saw my mother sitting in my chamber waiting for me, my expression softened a little. She looked at me and asked softly, "Yanyan, how is the Fang family? How did they treat you?" I rolled up both sleeves, shook the jade bangle on my left wrist, then the gold one on my right. "I think they're very satisfied with me." "That's good." My mother let out a barely noticeable sigh of relief. "I can see that Jianzhi treats you very well. What do you think of Jianzhi?" I curved my lips into a smile. With Fang Jianzhi around, I feel at ease. Watching the flickering lamplight, I said softly to my mother, "Mother, when I eat something delicious, I think of Fang Jianzhi. When I see something fun, I think of Fang Jianzhi. When I'm sad, the one I want is Fang Jianzhi. When I'm happy, he's who I think of too. I even worry that I lack talent and might be unworthy of him. But if one day Fang Jianzhi no longer wanted me, I'd still find a way to be with him." My mother pulled me into her arms and gently patted me. "My Yanyan is the best girl in the world. You're worthy of any man. It's all mother's fault. If I'd left you with your maternal grandparents when you were young so you could study properly, people wouldn't gossip about you like this." I nestled into her embrace and shook my head. "I'd rather stay by father's and mother's side. I want our family together. Don't worry, Yanyan. I'll take the money I set aside for your younger brother's wedding and make it all your dowry. And if that old prime minister dares to give you a hard time, I'll have your father find ways to wear him down." I whispered something into my mother's ear. She hugged me, stunned, then burst into muffled laughter. Curled up in her arms, I fell into a deep, sweet sleep. Calculating when father would finish court, I took a bowl of tofu pudding and a Duan inkstone and went to find him, telling him about what happened at Huffing House. Father was just about to blurt out his usual curse when he saw my mother put down the cloth she'd been using to wipe a blade. He forcefully swerved his words. "What the heck is going on? How did those people raise their sons? A child's failings are the father's fault. And just so happens the treasury's short lately. I'll find a way to knock some sense into them." Seeing father's righteous indignation, I handed him the inkstone. "Father, this was a gift from Jianzhi for you. A top-grade Duan inkstone. You little brat. What scheme are you plotting? Do you think your father doesn't know?" Father shot me a sideways glance. "Don't worry. As long as Fang Jianzhi has talent, I'll make good use of him. I won't hold him back." I grinned at father, pretending not to understand what he meant, gave a bow, and ran off. "Chen Yanyan, I let you be with Fang Jianzhi so you'd study properly, not so you could run around having fun." Father shouted after me, "Chen Yanyan, don't you corrupt Fang Jianzhi." In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the year. Father counted the days and began preparing my dowry. The first thing he did was clear out the Prime Minister's residence, saying it would be left for Fang Jianzhi and me. This single move threw the entire court into panic. Everyone said it was an open, blatant path being laid out for Fang Jianzhi. The old Prime Minister spent his days smiling broadly, telling anyone he met that it was all His Majesty's gracious favor, impossible to refuse, and that the young couple should live there. Young people deserved a bit more freedom. Before we dive back into the chaos and romance of court life, let's catch our breath, because just when you think marriage and medicine are all there is, the fun, mischief, and a little bit of family drama are just getting started. My father stroked his beard, acknowledging that the old Prime Minister had indeed behaved properly, mainly because he thought if I were living in the same residence as the Prime Minister, the old man would probably be driven half mad by me within 6 months. As for where my father would stay, I suspected he had planned it all along. Just when everyone thought I was already betrothed and had let their guard down, he went through the list of officials who had promised to marry by the end of the year but hadn't, gave them a hefty fine for not keeping their word, renovated the temporary palace, and still had plenty left over to pour into the treasury. When Fang Jianzhi came to the palace with the bridal attire to see me, I was half dead from embroidering my dowry. Seeing the laid-out dress, I grabbed Fang Jianzhi in excitement. "Fang Jianzhi, you really did save my life." Fang Jianzhi looked at me with a mischievous glint in his eyes. Yan, if we wait until you finish embroidering the dress, who knows when I'd be able to marry you. I can't wait that long. I angrily scratched at his waist, laughing and teasing for a while. Then Fang Jianzhi collapsed onto my bed, sighing in contentment. He finally got to marry me. It hadn't been in vain, he said. Content? Content about what? I asked. Fang Jianzhi propped himself up. At the mid-autumn banquet that year, my father placed me in the corner so your father wouldn't notice me. But everyone else was slouching, and I was the only one sitting upright. Yan. I got up at the crack of dawn to dress and prepare. Among all those quails in the hall, I was the only one of noble bearing. How could your father not see me? I shook his shoulders, exasperated. Playing dumb to catch a goose, huh? On the wedding day, with 100 li of red bridal decorations, the palace and streets outside were a sea of red. My father, eyes brimming with tears, instructed Fang Jianzhi to treat me well, warning that if he so much as mistreated me, he would break both of his legs. After a long, dizzying day, I collapsed onto the bed. Fang Jianzhi, with a wicked grin, leaned over and pulled out a book. Yan, father told me today to teach you to read and write every day. What? I just got married and I still have to study? I pondered for a moment, then wrapped my arm around Fang Jianzhi's neck, speaking softly and teasingly. You know I truly hate learning all that music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Fang Jianzhi, would you really let me be unhappy? I flipped through a couple of pages in his book, my cheeks flushed. Besides, is this even a proper book? I could never let Yan be unhappy. Fang Jianzhi wrapped his iron arms around me and laughed heartily. Whether this book is proper or not, we'll find out together. In the warmth of that moment, I felt him whisper in my ear about opening a clinic for me. But I was utterly exhausted and promptly fell asleep, eyes rolling shut. The next morning, I sprang up like a leaping carp, gently covering my waist, and nudged the still-sleeping Fang Jianzhi. Fang Jianzhi, wake up. You said last night you'd set up a clinic for me. Fang Jianzhi didn't move, eyes closed. Yan, don't disturb me. Last night's treatment work was too exhausting. We'll talk after I wake. I pounded on him for a while. After a proper rest, I suddenly remembered and patted his face. Today, we have to pay respects to your parents, right? Fang Jianzhi held my hand. My mother said we can go tomorrow. Today, just rest. Having slept my fill, I leaned over and asked, Fang Jianzhi, would your father dislike me opening a clinic? Fang Jianzhi nestled in my neck. Yan, why don't you beg me? I'll convince my father. I shrugged and kissed his forehead. I'm begging you, my husband. Yan, what did you just call me? Fang Jianzhi's eyes went wide. What did I call you? Fang Jianzhi. I smiled and called his name twice. Fang Jianzhi scowled and scratched my side. Yan, you're not allowed to call me Fang Jianzhi anymore. Call me husband or just Jianzhi. I kept wriggling, laughing, but I liked calling you Fang Jianzhi because every time I said his name, my heart felt safe. After breakfast, I dragged Fang Jianzhi to his house. A wedding meant we had to at least look the part, but when paying respects to the old prime minister, I stumbled, spilling tea across his robe. I trembled and looked up at him. The old prime minister shook his beard, pulled out a handkerchief, covered the stain, and, after taking my remaining half cup of tea, instructed someone to bring a tray of gold ingots. He'd heard I was opening a clinic and wanted to invest. I looked at Fang Jianzhi, puzzled, and he smiled faintly, thanking him and taking it on my behalf. After paying respects to Fang Jianzhi's mother, she slid off her sleeve, placed a pair of pale jade bangles onto my wrist, and had a chest overflowing with gifts brought in. Fang Jianzhi's elder brother handed me a key, explaining that the clinic location had been chosen, quiet yet convenient, with 2 physicians assigned to assist and teach me. On the way home, counting the treasures stuffed into the carriage, I tugged at Fang Jianzhi. Fang Jianzhi, why don't we get married a few more times? I figured a few more marriages meant a few more fortunes. But seeing Fang Jianzhi grind his teeth again, I quickly raised my hands, clinging to his arm. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The clinic thrived, and Fang Jianzhi navigated court politics smoothly. But when I got busy, I couldn't focus on him. He curled up at my little desk, working on official matters, and eventually, the clinic staff grew used to seeing the usually high-ranking prime minister's son cramped at a desk. One day, Fang Jianzhi noticed I was about to sit and rest. From beside the stove, he carried a bag of sugar-roasted chestnuts. I watched him yelp as he got burned, sat across from him, shook the chestnuts out, arranged them neatly, and held my hands close, blowing on them. Fang Jianzhi smiled, chatting casually as he shelled the chestnuts for me. After a while, I felt dizzy and gagged. Ayan, why does blowing make you feel sick? Fang Jianzhi set the teacup before my lips. I touched my left hand with my right for a while, then looked up at him. Fang Jianzhi, I think I'm pregnant. Fang Jianzhi remained calm. Ayan, then let's go home. I'll tell my parents first. Fang Jianzhi, put the cup down first. I laughed. Don't shake your hand. He calmly set down the cup, smiled at me. Ayan, I didn't shake. When my parents heard, they arrived at the Prime Minister's residence that night. My mother held my hand and instructed Li Qing on some precautions. I laughed and told my mother not to worry. I was a physician now, adept at gynecology. My mother touched my belly. If it's a daughter, it'll be wonderful, a little companion for you. Father sipped his tea. Better a son. Even if he's as clueless as you in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, he can go into business with his uncle. I stood at the door, rubbing my belly, watching my parents leave. I huffed. I'm having a daughter. Fang Jianzhi will teach her music, chess, calligraphy, and painting to show it's fine with me. Fang Jianzhi began raising pigs, while I grew round and healthy. He grew thin and weak, even gagging. Father, seeing Fang Jianzhi gag after barely touching his food, turned to me. Yanyan, you're the one pregnant, right? I placed my bowl on my bulging belly, looking at Fang Jianzhi with concern. I guess I'm the one pregnant. Because I had been well cared for, the birth went astonishingly smoothly, though the only annoyance was that I had 2 sons. At the 100-day banquet, Father held one in each arm, repeatedly marveling. Both of these children look like me, with clever faces. I stared at Father in disbelief. Father, last year, not a single tear of longing reached my cheeks. Father paused for a moment, then chuckled and turned to Mother.
See?
I told you. Marry a cultured one. And look at Salt now, speaking so eloquently. Chen Yan nudged my dazed father. Father, sister says your face is too big. Father froze for a beat, then pointed at Fang Jianzhi and laughed while scolding. I told you, my daughter forgets all the proper things she learns, but anything crafty or clever sticks right in her head. The hall erupted with laughter. I looked at Fang Jianzhi, all tender, gazing down at our children, and silently made a vow, a life without worries, joy without end. Extra, Fang Jianzhi. Before I met Ayan, I always wondered what a girl looked like who, after 2 years of learning music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, had mastered nothing yet still had the perseverance to continue. The New Year's banquet was the first time I saw her, clever and lively, nothing like the foolish beauty I had heard about. During the banquet, my brother must have eaten something he shouldn't, collapsing and convulsing. Ayan rushed down the steps, scattered the crowd, pulled open my brother's collar, and ordered the medicine to be prepared and administered. Watching my brother's color return, a ridiculous thought struck me. I wished it had been me who collapsed, just so I could have some connection with Ayan. But seeing my brother lying still, I was relieved it wasn't me. 2 years later, I heard His Majesty would select a husband for Ayan. My father stationed me in a corner to lie low, but seeing everyone else huddled like quails, I sat up straight, repeatedly meeting His Majesty's gaze. When the Emperor arranged my marriage to Ayan, a weight lifted from my heart. Back home, kneeling before our ancestors' tablets, Father scolded me with a stick on my back, whispering, "Before leaving, I told you, if His Majesty asks, say you have a betrothal and will marry by year's end." Why did you say otherwise? Simply because I like her, I said, kneeling straight. Father, many could be made prime minister's sons-in-law, but there's only one Yan. Father gasped in anger. You've studied for years and still don't know that becoming a prince consort could ruin your career? Father, would you give up a lifetime with mother for an official post? I saw father deep in thought, then pressed on. If my brother can follow his heart into commerce, why can't I marry the woman I love? Even if my official career stalls, I have skills. Even as a teacher, I could leave students across the land. Father staggered back 2 steps, dropping the stick. You've always been headstrong. As long as you don't regret it. Yet father's worries proved unnecessary. My career flourished even more steadily than his. When he retired, I took his place, wielding even greater power than he ever had. On the day of the return visit, Yan whispered to the Empress while I played chess by the window. I asked softly, the Crown Prince's tutor must struggle with him now. Why not replace him? My father has some free time lately. Jianzhi makes a good point, His Majesty said, glancing mischievously at me. I'll issue the decree. Thus began the chaos of my father tutoring the Crown Prince, often trembling in frustration, muttering about how the Qin family had cursed him. Yan, noticing my father's ill temper, brought him cooling teas repeatedly, while I, seeing him busy to the point of exhaustion, felt deeply for him. When Yan became pregnant, the imperial physicians confirmed twins. I watched her swelling belly, anxiously weak-kneed and nauseous, yet the heavens blessed her with a smooth pregnancy. After she gave birth, utterly exhausted for a full day and night, I stayed by her side, frequently checking her breath. When Yan woke and asked if I'd seen the children, I hesitated, then shook my head. Quick, bring them here. Name the boys first, she urged, patting my hand. Otherwise, father will insist one be called Big Dragon and the other 2 tigers. He loves that phrase so much. Don't rush, I said, tucking the blanket around her. How about Jun Gong and Huili? A gentleman cherishes subtlety, humility, and propriety. Yan exhaled in relief. Fang Jianzhi, congratulations. Your sons have narrowly escaped disaster. Yet when His Majesty cradled the twins and called them Big Dragon and 2 tigers, I realized perhaps they hadn't entirely escaped. Extra, Big Dragon. I'm Big Dragon. My brother is 2 tigers. Only my maternal grandfather calls us that. Father and mother call us Jun Gong and Huili. Mother said it sounded cultured. 2 tigers was always the prodigy in everyone's eyes, reciting poetry at 3, speaking elegantly at 5, and now already writing a 100-character essay. Meanwhile, I only excelled at arithmetic. Maternal grandfather held me and said everyone has talents. Just like mother, who couldn't play music, chess, calligraphy, or painting, yet thanks to father became half-cultured. And now, as a physician, she saves lives. My eldest uncle excels in arithmetic and is wealthy. If I later choose commerce, I can travel and trade like him. I laughed, explained it to grandfather, then wriggled free to play with my brother. I heard grandmother sigh behind me, muttering something about us inheriting Yan's cleverness, which infuriated the old Fang. 2 years later, grandfather passed away. Grandmother said he had long suffered from lingering ailments after a lifetime of battles, and now he was finally at peace. After the funeral, mother fell gravely ill. Father, seeing her weaken, stopped attending court, caring for her daily. 2 tigers stayed by her side, reciting poems, while I helped her with arithmetic. Mother patted my head. 2 tigers take him out to play. I patted her back. I'm the elder. I'll take my brother out. Before leaving, I paused, asking mother why we'd started calling my brother 2 tigers, since she had disliked the name. Her eyes were slightly red. She didn't answer, just waved us out. My brother said it was because mother missed grandfather. I sighed, patting my brother's head. I missed grandfather too. Father said mother's childhood with grandfather must have left her frail, so he began supervising her. No overworking at the clinic, no late-night reading, no eating cold or oily foods, no midnight snacks. Mother, frustrated, packed up and brought my brother and me back to the palace, while father was at court. Grandmother laughed, holding me while Mother chattered endlessly, her brows relaxed. As expected, Father appeared promptly after court, leaning close to Mother and playfully patting himself while holding her hand. I couldn't help but think, no wonder Uncle always said Father feared his wife. Now it was clear he truly did. Grandmother took my brother and me to play in the garden all afternoon. When we returned for dinner, the palace servant said Mother had taken Father home for some private time, leaving us under Grandmother's care. I clung to Grandmother's legs, begging for crystal pork hock, while my brother tugged her hand, asking for ice cream. Seeing her smiling, I realized Mother just wanted us to stay and accompany Grandmother. Ah, I truly inherited Mother's thoughtfulness.
The end.
As the storyteller, I can't help but grin watching my own chaos unfold. Big Dragon and two tigers sneaking candy, Fang Jianzhi and Chen Yanyan bickering, and yet somehow, every mess, every laugh, every small disaster stitched them tighter together. In this story, love isn't calm, it's loud, it's messy, and it's perfectly, gloriously alive.